Hi, it's Mike from Gear Diary. Now, what I have here, well, you can't really see everything that I've got here, but what I'm going to be talking about today is the iKlip stand from iKlip Multimedia. And so this is the iPad mini version, and as you can see, it provides a decent surface as well as some degrees of, well, I have to loosen it up, degrees of freedom and articulation to move around. So you can position it, lock it in place, and then still be able to move it. So now there are a couple things that I want to talk about on the iKlip stand. Before we get to this one for the iPad mini, I want to go back to the other one because the iKlip stand comes with what we will call some assembly required. It comes more or less as a kit. Now, you won't be able to see it because it's had a chance to heal, but in the review there'll be a nice little picture of some blood that was exacted when I went to put together the one for the iPad mini. At the base of the stand, there are two ways you can have this connected. The first one is this kind of horseshoe shape, which is your weighted desk stand, and then the other way is a clamp for basically clip it onto any sort of table. That one I'm not worried about right now. But in either case, you have this base and it has a small edged surface, which again is not a problem. You have a notch that meets up with another notch so that when you put it together, it forms, again, a great surface. Then what you have is a plastic washer and a securing pin, or securing ring. So this plastic washer, again, you probably won't be able to really see it, and it's not worth detail, but there's about a 16th, maybe 3/32 inch height difference from the edge to the inner portion. And I'm not sure if that's, to what extent that is intentional machining versus, I don't know, just an artifact of the press process. It's also rigid. In other words, I put it in my hand, I'm not bending this. So the problem gets into, you want to pop that on top of that, take this ring, put it in place, put that over, and then you want to be able to secure it in place. Now what happened to me was when I was building one for the iPad mini, I was absolutely certain that I should be able to do it. So I kept working it to the point where I managed to get it in, and it grabbed some of my skin and kind of got the crap out of my hand. So it requires just entirely too much force, and as you can see, I am still unable to get this together, and I'm now using that external tool only because I really don't want to re-injure my hand. So I've got the ring in place, got the secondary ring in place, and with a external device, I'm going to try. There we go. So now I'm able to get this in place without injuring myself. So the great thing now is this thing is lock solid. However, getting it back apart again, you run into the same thing. It really didn't loosen up all that much. So it does come in several pieces, and exactly the way I put that on is the same way I put the desk one on. So I move that out of the way. Now we get to the cool part, which is looking at the stand itself. So now the first stop is the motivation. Why would you care about a stand like this? Well, I guess before we get to that, let me just grab iPad mini, pull the cover of it, turn off my screen, and hopefully you can see this. Basically, it just slides right in. Now, at the bottom, there are two things to hold it in place. There are little mini clips, as well as on the sides. But you may have noticed I had to take off my smart cover because, well, I suppose I could not, but it really doesn't function that way. It really needs to be off. It needs to be uncovered. So that's fine. And this is good for a number of things, but I think the most important thing you might notice is that not only do I have my iPad here, but right underneath it I actually have got a surface to work on. So if I take something such as the iRig keys, rather than a typical desk setup, which is you'd have your iPad somewhere, you may have it in a small stand or something like that, directly behind this. Now all of a sudden, you can take your keyboard, put it down, and you could be working and be able to work right in place. Now the iRig keys is really not a great example. I could have grabbed one of my other controllers, but they're heavier and I couldn't really do it with one hand this way. But for a bigger controller, suddenly you have the ability to take this stand, slide it under something that's a full-size keyboard, and be able to use your iPad right over it in a very small desk space. So that's really the utility of the iPad in the iKlip stand for the iPad. This one's for the mini, this one's for the full size, and again you've got your weighted desk stand, which really is not going anywhere, and then you would have one with your typical spinning screw that would clamp into place to hold it if you were working on a desk already. So, iKlip stand from IK Multimedia. The pricing and links will be in the description and in the review. This is Mike from Gear Diary. Thanks for watching.